Author is funded by the Pacific Northwest Writers Association, supporting writers from pen to publication since 1955. To learn more about the PNWA and their yearly conference, please go to pnwa.org. But have you ever done the thing, too, where you said, maybe you've never done this, but most writers have tried to say, I'm going to take charge here.
Oh, God.
I'm going to make this happen.
Yeah. It's a disaster.
Always is.
Yeah, it's always a disaster. Yeah. No, I remember, with this book was such a struggle, I have to say. I started writing it in 2006, and in December of 2006. And of course, I know this because I have a computer file with that date, date and time stamp, right? So you can't, you know everything now. Everything is fixed in time. But I started writing it, and at the beginning, I knew that now the girl was writing in her diary, right? And she was sitting in a maid cafe in Tokyo, writing in her diary. She was writing to somebody, and it was very clear that she was addressing her words to somebody, but somebody who she didn't know. She didn't know who was going to read her diary, but she had a plan that she was going to leave this book, her diary, once it was finished, sort of out in the world. She was going to cast it out somehow, and that she had this faith that the diary would find a reader. And so she was writing to this reader, during the course of the diary writing. The problem was that she didn't know who her reader was, and so therefore neither did I. Okay, and so then it was such an interesting process. It was like being a casting director in for a film, right?
Yeah.
And I would, this is my search for the reader, and I would think of a character, and invite the character in, and arrange for the character to find the diary somehow. The character would read whatever portion of the diary was available at the time, was written at the time, and then the character would start to react. And little by little, and I'd write, and little by little, the fictional world would start to grow, and it would get all inflated and plump and juicy and, exciting. And then one morning I would wake up and approach the manuscript, and only to find that the whole world had gone flat. The entire sort of bubble had burst.
That a horrible
It's a
moment?
horrible moment. It's a horrible moment, right?
Yeah.
So then, know that, you can either spend your time, banging your head against this and trying to make it work, which sometimes, sometimes that works. But, in any case, it became clear to me that this was no longer this wasn't the right character. So I'd usher the character out the door, invite the next one in, start the whole process again. And I did that until the beginning of 2011. And I actually finished a draft. I finished a draft.
With someone else other than Ruth?
With somebody else other than Ruth. Completely different book. It was a completely different book. And I was, I'm not recommending this. This is not a good way to do it, but there are more efficient ways of writing novels. Okay, this is my way for this book. So at the beginning of 2011, I was just about to submit it. I'd submitted it to my editor, to my agent. She was okay with giving it to my editor. So we were just about to submit it. And I was doing that final crucial step, the one where you move commas around?
Yes.
Yeah, endlessly moving commas.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And so I was moving commas around, trying to polish it and get it right, when the earthquake happened in Japan, right? March 11th, March 11th earthquake and tsunami happened in Japan. And I don't know, I have friends and family in Japan, so I was just, I just was stunned. I spent the next couple of, days and weeks just watching the footage of that tsunami just obliterating the whole northern coastline of Japan, and all of, people dying, and, the nuclear power plant, Fukushima, exploding and, and melting down. And I could not walk away from that. I was just riveted by it. And, so days and weeks and whatever passed, I, found my friends and I found my family, and everybody was okay, and I was very thankful for that. And somewhere during this time, it occurred to me that, that the book that I had written, was simply no longer relevant. I had written, so there are certain kind of catastrophes.
Because of this, I know tsunami plays, but just because you felt emotionally, or that it was physically wasn't relevant.
That there are certain catastrophes of such magnitude, they draw a line in time, right? And they mark time in such a way that there is a world, a reality that is pre-earthquake, pre-tsunami, pre-Fukushima, right? And then there's the world, there's the reality, the Japan that is post-earthquake, post-tsunami, post-Fukushima, right? And I had written a pre-book. I had written a book that existed within the sort of mindset, that preceded this catastrophe, and now we were living in a post-world, the book just wasn't relevant. I couldn't go forward with it.
And then you found Ruth next.
Well, so then I withdrew it from submission, and I went home and hung around at home moping for a while, and was talking about it with my husband. I mean, I really thought that perhaps I should just give up, right? And it did occur to me to publish half of the book, to publish only Now's section of the book. That did occur, but it didn't seem right, you know. And I was talking about it with my husband, Oliver, and he was the one who said, I think the only way to deal with this is to step into the fictional world yourself as a character, and that would allow you, it was his idea, and that would allow you to address this emerging reality. I mean, reality has intruded, whether I like it or not, reality has intruded into this fictional world. Right. So if that's the case, really do it conscientiously. Break the fictional world, break the novel, step in as a character, right? And, respond from that position. And so I thought this was a really interesting idea. And I said, Ollie, that's great, but you do understand, don't you, that if I'm in the novel, then you're going to have to be in the novel too, right?
And he said, "Oh, well, the way you describe him in the book, I would assume he would have said,
No, he said, well, I think that would be an interesting thought experiment."
Well said.
And he agreed. Yeah.
It's such a great story, and I know it well, whether in various versions I've heard and lived. The challenge for the writer, it seems to me, and this is really any human being who's creating something like that, is it's not the moment when you realize it's not working, it seems to me, but the story you tell yourself about that moment. I mean, because things, how things work or don't work, but it always seems to me the stories we tell ourselves about the fact that it will determine how much we suffer through that and how long it goes.
That's true for everything in life, don't you think?
Yes.
Yes.
I just see it more poignantly in the writing experience, where something isn't working, and first you want to blame yourself.
That's right.
Did you go through all those?
Oh, I've been every permutation and manifestation of that. I'm sure I've been through. Yeah. I mean, I think, it's hard to write a novel. It is, and you go through. I think that fiction writers in particular are quite unbalanced, and you go through every range of emotion from deep despair at your utter lack of talent to, elation at your genius, and you can do that within an hour or two, right? And it's very, it's rocky. It's very destabilizing, right? And so you're constantly telling yourself stories, I think, about, this is working, this isn't working, this is great, this is this is a disaster. I mean, I think these are the kinds of things that come up, come up a lot. And it's true. What you have to learn, I think the most important lesson to learn through that is, is how to understand that neither of these extremes are true. And it's really not even about that. It's not about the story you tell yourself about the process. It's just simply returning to the process.
That's right.
And you return to the process
again. There's no story should be told about the process, really.
That's right. It's
ideally.
Just that this simply is what's happening now, and it will pass. It too will pass. And the important thing is just to come back and to do that. To use your analogy earlier, in the most receptive way possible. And you can't listen if your mind is filled with all of that chatter, right? So to let all of that as much as possible, just let that go. Understand, yes, everybody goes through this. It's okay, Ruth. It's okay, and let it go, and then just come back to the world of the book.
I know how much your spiritual life is a part of your life. And when I sort of started my own spiritual practice, I realized, my first spiritual practice was writing.
Yes.
That was where I really began to learn what to do with my attention. I always think of it, that's how I what do you do with your attention? Because you can do anything.
Yeah.
And that's
yeah.
what spiritual practice, among other things, asks you to do.
Yes, yes, yes. And I do find that, you know, for example, the practice of meditation is very, you know, it's a wonderful accompaniment, you know, and a wonderful, you know, it works very well with the writing process. It really helps the writing process.
Yeah.
I mean, once again, it helps everything, you know, but it also helps the writing process because I think, you know, writing is a contemplative act, as is meditation, you know, and both are contemplative acts that you do with your body. Yep. Right. And, you know, it's interesting because in Buddhism, we talk about the 5 senses, but then there's a 6th sense, which is mind. Right. Yeah. So it's something actually that, you know, meditation is something you do with your 6 senses. And that's very much true with writing as well, you know. So, and without being, you know, I mean, one of the things in meditation, of course, is just that, you know, you sit there and you, as much as possible, sort of become receptive. You listen with all of your senses,
yes.
with all 6 senses, right?
Yeah.
And you open them up to the world and you listen, and that's exactly what you do with
That's
writing
right.
as well, you know.
That's
so
right.
these are in these ways, I think they're, you know, they work very well together.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember it was Andre Dubus when I interviewed him for the first time. He talked about learning to write. And he said, it's when I stopped learning to write with my head and I started
Yes.
writing with my body.
That's right.
And I thought,
that's right.
that's it.
That's it.
Because your body tells you, there's a million sentences and anyone intellectually could be right, but you only know emotionally, which is in your body.
That's right. That's right.
Whether it's
that's
correct
right.
or not.
That's right. And you pay attention to, you know, the little cues that your body is giving you. You know, I mean, there's you know, it's impossible to describe in words, but there are moments where you just know. You just know that this is, you know, this is the right way. You know, and you
it is
go
the
there.
unprovable truth.
That's right. That's right.
But it is. But it's tricky because we live in a scientific world.
Yeah.
And everything's proven.
Yeah.
But you can't prove nothing.
Yeah. But do you know this guy? There's this Dutch writer in New York right now who's he's wearing one of those caps with electrodes like all in his, you know, all over his head, and he's hooked up to all these machines and he's writing a novel. Okay. And so
is this his idea?
He's working with some scientists, neuroscientists,
okay.
of course. And so he's writing his novel, and the data that's being, you know, collated is data on both what's happening in his brain, right, as well as what paragraph and page he's on as he's writing.
This
okay.
could be disastrous.
Well,
okay.
But so then
Right.
the book that he's writing is going to be published, and the first readers of this book are going to be reading it also hooked up.
Oh God!
So
Stop.
damn it! I know. So damn it! We are gonna learn how this works. You know, we are gonna have the science to prove that fiction works.
But the whole point is that when you're writing, I mean, I tell my students, like, look, this girl spoke to you.
Yeah.
And you thought, this is cool.
Yeah.
But there wasn't nobody else on the planet who knew it was cool but you.
That's right.
And only you could teach us why it was cool.
That's right.
No proof until it's written.
Until it's written. That's right.
No handrails.
That's right. No handrails. I always think it's kind of like, you know, it always feels, in that beautiful book by Annie Dillard, The Writing Life, which is one of the most beautiful books on writing that you will ever read in your life. And I can't do it justice by trying to quote it, but she describes her, you know, the morning and you know, the writer's morning, walking upstairs, walking into the room, opening the French doors with a cup of coffee, stepping out into thin air, right?
Yeah.
And you know, and starting to write. And it's this beautiful, beautiful paragraph, and it really is like that. I mean, you're constantly just, you know, you're stepping out into thin air, and you're just hoping that the infrastructure will somehow, you know, appear so that you don't go tumbling down into the, you know, into the ravine, you know. So, you know.
Well, speaking of time, we do have some time limits, and I want these folks to be able to ask some questions. So I have one more question for you, and then I'm going to turn it over to a lovely audience. So what I'd like you to do is finish this sentence for me.
I hate these things.
I'm
just telling you right now.
No, you can do it.
Okay.
If writing has taught me anything, it's taught me what?
Patience. Patience.
Patience with the word and patience with the whole.
Yeah. Patience with myself. Yeah. Patience with the process. You know, and once again, this is. I've been thinking a lot about patience because it seems to me that patience is. It's not a very sexy virtue, but it is probably the most important virtue that we can hope to cultivate as time beings. You know, patience is all about our relationship with time and our relationship with being in time, and we've lost our ability to be in time in a gracious kind of spacious way. And so, certainly as a writer, that's what we need. That's what I need. I need unbelievable amounts of patience. And this too is where meditation, the spiritual practice and the writing practice kind of, I think, come together. Because meditation is nothing but a practice of patience. Yeah. That's what it teaches you to do. I mean, you sit there on your cushion, your mind goes crazy, and you come back, and it goes crazy, and you come back, and you come back, and you come back. And so there's a kind of, by doing that, you're actually cultivating a kind of faith in your ability to be in time. And that's exactly the same kind of faith that you need as a writer.